In this video, I'm going to tell you about a gold company that I think could be the next 10 bagger in the gold mining space. Full disclosure, this isn't a sponsored video, but I am a shareholder of this company, and I'm a shareholder for what I think are very good reasons. But I'm no genius. This is just my opinions based on my analysis. So always do lots of your own research before investing any of your hard-earned money. So the company I'm talking about today is Bluestone Resources. They have a gold development project in Guatemala, and it's set to be one of the lowest cost gold mines in the world. I first bought a small position in this company back in October when it was trading at 20 cents, but then in late November, it had dropped down to 14 cents, and that's when I really backed up the truck. That's when I really thought it was a super great value. Well, in the last few days, we've had a big run up in the price, but for good reason, because we got a huge update that greatly de-risked the project. Now, as of today, it's trading at 40 cents. And all figures that I'm going to be talking about in this video are in US dollars, by the way. So when I bought shares in this company, based on my analysis, I thought that if everything went right, it could possibly end up being a $5 stock. Notice I said possibly, not probably, but possibly. So a lot of things would have to go right for that to happen, and a series of events would have to happen. And in order to get to the $5 valuation, they would have to build their mine themselves. But I don't think that's the most likely scenario. I think a more likely scenario is they end up selling the company, or they form some kind of partnership deal where some partner funds the building expenses and then they keep a portion, or maybe they sell the company outright. But we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, let's get into why I think it's such a great value today. So the company is trading over the counter in the US by the ticker BBSRF. And as of the making of this video, it's trading at 40 cents, but it's been very volatile the last few days. So it will likely be different than that when you see this video. And based on trading at 40 cents, that puts the market capitalization at $62 million. However, the company does have a little bit of debt, and their net debt is about $13 million. So the market is valuing the company at approximately $75 million today. That is a terrible M. Sorry about my horrible writing. So in order for us to see a 10 bagger from this share price, we would have to see a company valuation of $750 million. So let's take a look at how we could possibly get there. So first up, the company owns the Mita geothermal project. And I honestly don't know how to value this, but I know the value is more than zero. And so far, $60 million has been spent on the Mita geothermal project. Now, what this is going to mean is that their Cerro Blanco mine is guaranteed reasonably affordable electricity throughout the life of the mine, and then they could sell the excess electricity into the grid in Guatemala. And something else this geothermal project does for the company is it gives their gold mine the option to run on clean energy, which may be an important selling point for ESG reasons. Almost all of the company's value lies in their Cerro Blanco gold mine. So this had a feasibility study done on it in 2022, and at $1,600 gold, it puts the valuation at over $1 billion. I believe it was 1.047. However, at $2,000 gold, where we're trading today, it puts the net present value at about $1.7 billion. Now remember, to get a 10 bagger from here, we need a company valuation of $750 million, which is less than this. You may think, okay, well, that should be easy to get there, right? Well, not so much, because they haven't even started to build the mine yet, nor do they have financing. But a big question is, how is a $60 million market cap company going to get more than $500 million in financing to build this mine? Well, that could be tricky, and that's where a partner might come in. However, it's not totally out of the question. Like, for example, they could sell a silver stream on this to Wheaton Precious Metals, for example. Wheaton Precious Metals is very often interested in silver streams, so that's a possibility. We could see some sort of financing like this, but we also got to keep in mind that Bluestone Resources is a Lundin company. The Lundin family trust owns something like 30% of this company. The Lundins have the money to finance this, but they also have the connections, and they've made relationships with various banks over the many, many years that they have been successful in their operations. And also, it's worth keeping in mind that something will probably have changed in the last 2 years with this. Like, we've had some inflation since then. And something else to consider is that in this feasibility study with $1,600 gold and $2,000 gold, they were using a 5% discount rate. And in today's environment, at today's interest rates, who the heck is getting financing at 5%, especially a small junior miner? No, not a chance. So we can't really trust these numbers because the discount rate is too low. So maybe we have to look at it as if we have $1,600 gold, even though we do have $2,000 gold. But maybe because of the low discount rate, we have to use this number of about $1 billion. I think the only way that we get to a valuation of anywhere near this number with the company is that Bluestone arranges financing on its own, and then they build the mine, and then they start operating the mine successfully. In that case, we could see the company valued at about 1 times NAV. Maybe in today's market and with today's sentiment, it's a bit lower than that. Maybe it trades at 80% of NAV or 90% of NAV. But I think by the time that this mine is built, well, then the sentiment in this market will have changed quite a bit, probably for the better, because it couldn't get much worse than what it is right now today. And if Bluestone is able and willing to build the mine themselves and get to that valuation, well, then we're at a 10-bagger. Like, remember, to get to a 10-bagger, we need a company valuation of $750 million. I don't think that's the most likely scenario. In fact, I don't even think it's probable that this happens. It's a possibility, but not a probability. So why do I think it's not a probability that this will happen? Well, because Bluestone has said publicly that they think that this company or this mine could be better in the hands of a bigger company that already has cash flow or some sort of strategic partnership to get this thing built, since Bluestone is a single asset company. Well, they have the Mita geothermal project, but for all intents and purposes, they're a single asset company in the Cerro Blanco gold mine, and they don't have any cash flow. So what are the possibilities here? Well, one, I think they could sell the company outright. Now, what kind of valuation will they get if they sell the company outright? Well, in today's market, the stock price is super depressed. It's gone way, way down over the last couple of years as investors have doubted that Bluestone would get that permit that they just recently got, and also investors were just getting bored of this. If they were to sell this project, how much could they sell it for? Like, how much could they sell the company for if they wanted to sell the company? In today's market, I don't know. I think investors would be freaking out if it was more than a double from the current valuation. But as a shareholder myself, I think selling this for a double from here is greatly undervaluing this gold mine, this project. I think it's worth way more than that. So as a shareholder, I don't think I could vote in favor of that. I think I'd have to vote against that transaction. Now, I think a company could buy this for $200 million, $300 million. I'd vote in favor of that transaction. However, to get the shareholders of the other company to agree to that, I don't know. That might be a tough sell, unless it's a company that's in very strong hands. Like, for example, Lundin Gold. Lundin Gold, just like Bluestone Resources, has a significant ownership from the Lundin family trust. So that's a possibility. And let's say Lundin Gold buys Bluestone Resources for $200 million. In all likelihood, Lundin Gold is still going to make a lot of money on this, and they can fund the build from their current cash flow of their current mine in Ecuador, their Fruta del Norte mine there. So I think that's a real possibility. But in order to sell this company for $200 million, $300 million to another public company, I think we're going to have to get improved sentiment from here and an improved stock price of Bluestone so the investors in the acquiring company don't feel like they're overpaying too much for Bluestone. Now let's talk about another possibility, some kind of strategic partnership. So this mine is going to produce an average of 240,000 ounces a year. As a matter of fact, near the beginning of the mine, it will produce up to 350,000 ounces in certain years. So 240,000 ounces a year, that's a big number, especially for a mid-tier gold producer. So you have a gold company that's currently producing 400,000, 600,000, even a million ounces a year. Adding this production to their current production profile is going to do a lot for them. But even if this number were divided in two, and it was only 120,000 ounces a year that was going to that mid-tier, Bluestone could do some sort of strategic transaction with another mid-tier where Bluestone says, hey, mid-tier company, we are going to give you 50% of this project. And in exchange for that, it's your responsibility to fund 100% of the cost to build this mine. Now, you're going to get this for free. You don't have to buy us. You don't have to buy us out to freak out your shareholders by paying a stupid premium or what they might perceive as a stupid premium. But you're going to add 120,000 ounces a year of production to your, let's say, 500,000 ounce production profile. All you have to do is pay for the construction. I think they might be able to come to some agreement like that with a mid-tier company as well. But we'll see. So in the case that they sell the company outright, if they did it today, I think we'd struggle to get more than a double from here. So 40 cents to 80 cents. If sentiment improves, like let's say sentiment improves and the share price goes up to 80 cents, and then they sell the company at that point, well then I think maybe we could get a quadruple from here. But if we go this route and we get an acceptable deal from a mid-tier company, everything goes well with the mine build, we get it after a couple of years into operation, into full production, and it's producing similar to how we thought it would in the feasibility study, well then I think we could be looking at approximately a $500 million valuation for Bluestone. $500 million valuation from here, what is that? A 7x gain from here? So I think one of those is the most likely scenario. So at the end of the day, based on these various scenarios, I certainly don't think it's a probability that we get a 10-bagger. However, I do think it's a probability that we see substantial gains from here. Now, will that be a 2 times gain or a 4 times gain if we sell the whole company? Maybe. Or will that be a 7x gain if we get an acceptable partnership agreement, and if everything goes well with the mine build, and if we get it operating at full production, and if we get it operating at an all-in sustaining cost close to what it says in the feasibility study, well then, yeah, I think we could have a 7-bagger from here. But notice that's a lot of ifs. If this happens, and if this happens, and if this happens. So there's certainly risk involved here, but I do think the potential reward greatly outweighs the potential risks. I wanted to say thank you for watching until the end. I know you don't have to watch these videos, but I really appreciate that you do. If you're interested in learning more about mining stocks, you can go check out one of these videos right here, and I'll see you over there.